If you are a woman living her best hot mess express life while simultaneously crushing it, and you're craving more clarity, purpose, and excellence, get ready because you're in the right spot. I am your host, Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, and I want to welcome you to Season 2 of All Things Excellence, the podcast, where I'll be bringing you all the inspiration and insights your excellence-seeking heart desires. This season, I'm stepping back into chasing big, bold, and absolutely terrifying goals, sharing every honest step and misstep along the way. We're continuing our beloved Unscripted series, featuring live clarity coaching sessions with guests just like you, and diving deep into raw behind-the-scenes stories of powerhouse women founders I am wildly obsessed with, whose journeys will fuel your own. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam. Today we are talking about an excellence audit. So on last Friday's episode, I talked to you all about how I'd really started to schedule intentional white space. And obviously I've still been adjusting because I have to live out the schedule that I've already done. And what happened was I went from working 100% in an industry where the book and hold rate, like 50% of the appointments that you book hold, right? So if you book 10 appointments, you know that 5 of them are going to hold. So you want to book twice as many as you're supposed to hold. And so I went from that industry then over here to more with like coaching and podcasting where, I still have that business as well. So I am in that. So it's like that section of that business, I got to remember that I need to book twice as many appointments as I want to hold. But over in coaching, about 85% of the appointments hold. And then in podcasting, 100% of the appointments hold. But I was running my entire life like I needed to double book everything, when in reality, I'd settled more into this place of like 80% of my appointments holding. So I'd gone to feeling just really disheveled and exhausted and overworked and overbooked and just too much work and not enough fun and not enough joy. And so I talked about that on last week's episode, just what I did, the process that I went through mentally to be able to then build in more white space and what that looked like. So this week, so I did that last week. You all heard about that on last Friday. And this past week on that same Friday, and Monday, I did a 2-part brain spotting session. What is brain spotting? Brain spotting is like EMDR therapy on steroids. Like there's a time and place for talk therapy, and then there's a time and place for brain spotting therapy where you're just like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to do this hard and fast thing where you like find the point in your brain, you locate the issue, and you just kind of melt it away. It's a really, really cool psychology technique. I've been working with this therapist now for a couple of years. Absolutely love her. She is coming to the podcast episode. She is on the next episode. So if you're super curious about brain spotting, the modality itself, how it works, who it helps, make sure you listen into the next episode because she is here, Rachel is here, and we are talking about it. And we even recorded these 2 episodes. So that's fun. I'm definitely bring my therapy session live to the internet. I mean, heck, why not? My executive assistant was editing it today, actually, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I was like crying listening to the episode, just listening to you talk about some of these memories that you had. And she's like, "Was it really that real?" And I was like, "It was really that real, not just my version of it." So just know that one's coming up. But when I did that, it was so deep. I'd done buckets of talk therapy over that issue, like buckets, loads, episode upon episode, upon session. And I'd healed so many pieces of it. I'd cut so many emotional cords attached to that. But what happened was there was a couple things, like a few sticking points that were still there. And so once I had those brain spotting sessions, and once I released that stuff finally, Monday, I started noticing on Tuesday, I was getting really agitated. And it was like I had released this old stuff, the old stuff that had been holding me back and slightly hostage for the last decade, causing me to play so much smaller than I used to ever play, that once I released that, I was ready to go. And I started just looking around my house and going, why are these systems out of order? And why am I not doing this? And why have I not exploded to that yet? And then I started noticing all of the ways that I was sabotaging myself, like all of the tiny we call it like creative avoidance, like all the creative avoidance ways that I was using to sabotage myself, to hold myself back, to play small. Well, once all of that stuff was gone, once all of those things were released, all I could see was all the stuff that I needed to do and all the things that needed to get done and all of the places that I'd been playing small and that I was no longer willing to play small, but I was ready to go into like all out champion mode. And I have a friend and a mentor, her name is Amy, and years ago when I was feeling this same vibe, and to be super real, y'all, it was on the end of a season where I had done a lot of therapy. I'd done a lot of talk therapy, and I'd been working with a therapist and a coach at the same time to really reprogram sections of my brain. I'd done a lot of new truth statements, and I came out of that healing season raring and ready to go, but super frustrated because I didn't feel like I knew what to do to get to where I wanted to go. And so I had emailed this person that I really looked up to, this Amy. I emailed her, really super looked up to her and said, is there any way we can go to coffee? And she said, absolutely. I can meet you for 45 minutes on this day. I said, okay, I'll be here. I'll be there. Now, what y'all don't know is that at the time, I was living in small town Oskaloosa, Iowa, and she lived not just in Omaha. She lived on the west side of Omaha. Yo, we are talking about like a 4-hour drive. So I woke up at the crack of dawn to be able to meet her for coffee that morning, and I drove 4 freaking hours for a like 30 to 40 minute conversation with her, knowing that this conversation would move the needle. Now, my mom has referenced this conversation many times. She doesn't know what happened in the conversation, but she knows that the conversation happened. And she always says, when you left that coffee, the powerful Panera in West Omaha, when you left that coffee, you were changed. Something was different. And I radically exploded that business. And what happened was she sat across from me and she said this: champions can only not win for so long, and then they will leave and they will go find somewhere they can win. And you, Chels, you are a champion. Now, when she said that, there were 2 major things. 1, champions can only not win for so long. And after not winning for so long, they're going to leave and they're going to go find a place to win. So what that said to me was, you're only going to allow yourself to play small and be frustrated so long. And if you don't figure this out really quick, you will quit and go find somewhere else to win. And I didn't want to quit. I wanted to win there desperately. I wanted to win there. It was important to me. But she also looked at me dead in the eye and said, and you, Chels, you are a champion. And I believed her. I believed her to my core because I hadn't had someone really look at me dead in the eye and say that in a really long time. Like I had a piano teacher that my aunt transferred me to when I was, I think, probably in 9th grade. And she just said, I'd kind of outgrown the teacher before that. I had this skill that I can pretty much sight read really complex music perfectly, especially then when I was spending hours a day on the piano. And she transferred me over to this teacher who literally taught at a college. Like that was her job, was to teach piano at a college. She was a college professor. And I remember sitting down that first week and playing, and she said, wow, your aunt wasn't kidding. And you really can do that, huh? And I said, excuse me? She said, you are really great at sight reading. Now I want you to take this home this week and I want you to actually practice it, because I believe that you can be really, really good. And she saw that in me. She saw that exceptional talent in me. And she drew that out of me. She didn't allow me to play small. She didn't allow me, like she didn't say like, what, like she didn't allow me to have like an easy A plus. I had that. And then I had another time in college where I'd gotten a D on a paper and a lot of my friends had gotten a higher grade than me, which I knew was complete BS because my paper was way better than theirs. And I brought it into him and I was furious. And I said, I think this is crap, Dr. Wilson. Like, my paper is so much better than everybody else's. I cannot believe that you gave me a D and you gave other people like C's, and I deserved, to have a better grade than theirs. Mine is better than theirs. And he said, I didn't judge the paper based on how good yours was in comparison to theirs. I graded the paper based on what I expect out of you, and that is D work out of you. And I know that you can deliver so much better. I'll give you this one opportunity to be able to go back and rewrite that paper. Now, I tell you guys those stories to say, like, there are times in our life where we have to surround ourselves with people who see the most excellent versions of ourselves. Because even though I like exude confidence, my self-assurance and like who I am and what makes me great, it explodes to the roof. But sometimes we need that person to look us dead in the face and to call us out, and where they're like, you're playing small and I see so much more out of you. And so that's what she did for me that day. And so today, as I've, this week, as I've been walking around since having that brain spotting session, I've been able to look in the mirror and go, holy smokes, like, you are a champion and you are absolutely not being a champion right now. Now, would 95% of people look at my life and go, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, this is like not champion mode. Like, what does that even mean? Like, if this isn't excellence, then what is, And I look at tiny little things that I've been doing where it's like, I've been doing small tasks like managing my inventory and making sure it's like stickered and put away. And I've been like answering emails that I shouldn't be answering and inputting information that I should be having somebody hired to do. I mean, for gosh sakes, like, I've been filling and emptying my own dang dishwasher and doing my laundry, things that I never would have ever done back in the day. That, I was like 24 years old and I was hiring someone to come in my house and do those things, right? Because the biggest thinking version of ourselves doesn't say, I'll hire someone when I can afford them. The biggest thinking version of ourselves says, I'm hiring someone today, knowing that when I pay them in 2 weeks, the increased productivity is going to be 10 times more than what I'm going to be paying them. And so all of a sudden, I was aware of all these sabotage behaviors that were around me. Now, am I giving myself grace for growth as my business grows and evolves? Absolutely. And I'm giving myself permission to release the things that are no longer serving me. But what I did today, thinking about all of this in mind, was I did an excellence audit on myself. Okay. So I have 10 questions for you today to do an excellence audit on yourself. So here are the 10 questions that I asked myself today. First of all, what do I want most 3 years from now? Now, you can use the 8 areas of alignment that I use with my coaching clients that I've talked about on different episodes. You can do that, or you could just ask yourself, just go like, oh my gosh, 3 years from now, in my dream world, 3 years from now, living in my dreams, but also being really grounded in reality. Where do I see myself 3 years from now? It's like, do I have the podcast? Am I coaching? Do I still have the community? What does it look like? How big has my book club community grown? Where are we living? Where's Kobe working? Like, what does my direct sales career look like? Like, what do all those things look like? And so I wrote those down. Like, what does our financial life look like? What do our investments look like? One of the things that I would love to have 3 years from now, I told somebody this the other day, one of my friends, I said, I might honestly buy a house in Iowa again before I buy a house in Arizona, because I've been really unattached to the idea of owning a home. A lot of it has to do with Kobe and his job. And, when he graduates here in a year, and just going, is he going to stay at his school? Is he going to end up teaching at a different school? Because that'll really dictate where we live. But I see myself honestly owning an investment property back in our hometown before I see myself buying another house here, for a lot of reasons. It's a great investment property. It's a place that's going to encourage us to go back there more, because we love having our own personal space. We love, here's the permission for this. We get an Airbnb every time we go back. The deal is that my siblings are in the thick of it with their kids. They got a lot going on. And my mother-in-law gets really jealous about how much time we would stay at somebody else's house. And my parents are above and beyond incredibly empathetic towards her. And so they will just pay for us to have an Airbnb when we go back, because they just want it to be this neutral place where, her feelings are never hurt, feeling like we're staying more with one or the other. And then everybody knows Kobe enough to know that he just really loves his personal space and likes just waking up quietly. He needs a place to go back and restore, where it's just him all alone. And so I thought, like, oh my gosh, I think that one of the things that I really want to make happen in the next 3 years is getting that investment property there. So the second question I asked myself is, what progress would make me most excited to have towards those 3 year goals 1 year from now? What progress would make me most excited to have towards those goals 1 year from now? So ask yourself, what are those goals 3 years from now? Like, where do you really want to be 3 years from now? What do you want your life to look like? That day to day life. What are you doing? How is life looking? What is your family doing? Where are you living? Like, all of those different dynamics, the day to day. And then what would make you excited to celebrate? What would feel like progress towards that 1 year from now? Maybe it's business growth. Maybe it's a number of clients. Maybe it's an amount of money you've made, saved, or invested. Maybe you've moved, like whatever that is. The third question I ask myself, what am I currently doing that does not align with my 1 and 3 year vision? What am I currently doing that does not align with my 1 and 3 year vision? And honestly, I kind of hate this question. I hate this question because I know that this question leads to a lot of disappointment from other people. Now, here's a torn thing. I do not care. Like, I'm not emotionally tied to other people's disappointment, but I do like to avoid it a little bit just because I know that I don't care. The level at which I am like, how I inconvenience you because I need to live my best life is not my problem, it's yours. Like, I really truly feel that way. But then I also know that that always brings this interesting level of awkwardness. So, like, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm the soccer booster president. And for the love of God, like, I just know, there is going to be another parent that's going to step up and that's going to take this off my plate, because me being the soccer booster president absolutely does not align with my goals of where I want my life to be 1 and 3 years from now. And I know for a fact that, like, while I could do a really, really great job, once I've made my mind up and I've made a decision that I do not want to do this, I am no longer the best person for this job. And I know that there's somebody out there that is. Because when we start feeling the feels of, I no longer want to do this, we have to give that up. We have to surrender that, because that means that God has 1000% put a call on somebody else to pick it up and do it. So I'm like tossing it out left and right everywhere that I don't want to do this anymore. I'm taking applications. Anybody that would like to have it, you can take it off my hands. And that's because I know for a fact that if I'm feeling called to surrender it, there's absolutely somebody else being called to pick it up. So that's one of those things. There's a few things actually that I'm currently doing that do not align with my 1 and 3 year goal. Now, number 4, how quickly can I release those things? Because sometimes we just can't release everything. Like, I have somebody that I've worked with where it's like, one of the jobs that she has absolutely does not align with where she sees herself in the next 3 years. But can she release that job today? Well, no, she can't, because she has to pay those bills. So the question number 4, how quickly can I release those things? That really depends on the level of involvement with others. Sometimes it's like, I can't just decide today that I no longer want to be the soccer booster and stop showing up as the soccer booster president. It just doesn't work like that. You have to have somebody doing it, right? Like, somebody's got to be, making sure the shirts are ordered for the camp that's coming up in 2 weeks. It's like, maybe there's a certain financial gain that this side job that you're doing is bringing into your family, and that your business isn't where it needs to be yet for you to be able to just drop that and expect that income is going to get picked up overnight. You have to look at that and go, okay, if this is no longer serving my 3-year goal and I would like to release this job, asking your question number 4, how quickly can I release that, is based on looking at numbers. Like, really look at that and figure out, either are there expenses that you can cut out of your life so you can release that quicker, or what kind of a growth path does that look like that you need to get on to be able to grow this other source of income so you can release that. I asked myself question number 5 then. What am I personally doing that needs to be delegated? What am I personally doing that needs to be delegated? And who do I know that I could hire to do that? Because these are from small to large things. Maybe your business has outgrown you doing it. There was a time where you had the time and the capacity to be able to do a lot of these things. Now, there's the biggest saying that we've all heard: just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there gets to be this point. I remember, when I moved to Texas, I moved there at the end of March, And again, I've had an in-home assistant who's like a personal assistant more since I was like 24 years old. And they'd come in and they would do things like maybe meal prep for me or cook for me, clean, or, like manage some of my inventory stuff, enter some paperwork, just tiny tasks like that, run by the grocery store, walk Chloe, whatever needed to be done. And I remember moving to Texas, and it was the first week of June, and a different mentor of mine, whose name is Amy, her name is Amy Kemp. She's been on our podcast before. I highly recommend going back and finding her episode, looking into all of her stuff. Get her book, I See You. No one in the world is better at helping you look at your unpaid labor that needs to be delegated than Amy Kemp, I promise you. And so she had said to me, and she showed me the facts. Like, she did a bunch of research on people that were waiting to hire help before trying to grow their business, or the people that just said, screw it, surrendered, they hired the help, and then they watched their business grow. And she and I had a conversation. I literally remember driving up and parking my car in front of my apartment building in Dallas and walking in. And then that night, and her and I had a conversation, and I listened to a recording of hers. And that night I went to my success meeting and I announced it to the room. And there was a guest there that somebody had brought. And she walked up to me after and she said, I'm really interested. I would love to be your assistant. And I took her to coffee a couple days later and I grilled her like a huge a-hole. I'm not even kidding. I was like not even nice. I can still see where I was sitting. I was not kind. And she, because I just didn't believe that she would. I was like, I don't think so. Right? Like, I just thought like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think you're the one. And I asked her a zillion questions. And that's where we got our Shayla. She answered every question perfectly in the way that I would want it to be answered. And that's when she started working in our house. And that was the end of June. And by the end of March, that's when I quadrupled my business. Now, there was a lot of tiny little things that went in there. There was a daily intention sheet. But what happened was I knew that I had 2 weeks to get my crap together to increase my income where I could afford to pay her, because I just moved across the country. I just went from like my $400 mortgage in Iowa on a 5-bedroom home to a $1,500 rent on a 2-bedroom apartment in North Dallas. So I had already just exploded my expenses, and I'm like 27 years old. So I had to make this money. And remember, I'm living in a new state where I don't know anybody. And I'm like, literally, I knew one friend and she lived on the other side of the city. So I had to like make a lot from nowhere. And within those 2 weeks, y'all, there were days where I literally paid her to go networking with me. I'm not even kidding. Like, we're walking the malls, y'all. We're walking the malls and I'm meeting people and I'm having conversations. We're in the Barnes and Noble. We're in the Target, meeting new random friends. I'm handing my business cards out everywhere we're going, and I'm paying her to come with me. And part of that was I just hated going and doing those things alone. And so it was worth paying her to go with me. But I will tell you, at the end of 2 weeks, she more than paid for herself. So we do not build our business and then hire the help. We hire the help and then explode the heck out of our business. Now, does this work all the time? No. Like, there is times where it's like, guys, like, she was working 10 hours a week. And this was 13 years ago. So she was working 10 hours a week 13 years ago. Like, I got to pay her $12 an hour. Like, that's not necessarily the same now. Like, if you're going to go hire a full-time person, you might need to have a little bit of a different scale for that. But really, the person that you hire, if you're hiring someone to do a lot of these tiny little tasks, they should really instantly pay for themselves. John Maxwell always says that if somebody can do something 80% as well as you delegate it. You hire it out to them. And so I made that list today, y'all. I made the list of all the things around my house that were driving me insane. That if I had someone in my house that was coming here every single day, because that assistant has gotten really, really busy, and just, it's hard to be able to have her here. So I need somebody else. What would this person be doing? And I knew that I wanted somebody that was not a mom yet, because some of the tasks that I want this person to do are mom tasks, like unloading the dishwasher, floating the dishwasher, organizing the pantry, like maybe even take out the trash. I don't know why sometimes taking out the trash, you just like keep shoving it down. But just somebody that can come to our house a couple times a week, help pick up all the pieces that are falling, and then also help to do a lot of tiny little things in my office, where it's not even that it's taking a lot of time, but it's taking a crap load of bandwidth. It is clogging my brain. And it's also clogging my daily to-do list. And I'm like wasting ink by how many days I have to write it on the next day. So I wrote all of that down. And I honestly, y'all, I swear to y'all, I just like closed my eyes and said a little prayer. I was like, God, Do I know the person that should be doing this? And instantly, a girl popped into my brain that goes to Kobe's school. I knew that she would be perfect. I know quite a bit about her. I met her parents. And then I ran to the post. I'm not even kidding, all this happened. I ran to the post office. On the way back, I stopped by the school to talk to Kobe. And she literally was parked next to his car. I'm not even kidding, y'all. Her car was parked next to his car and she was sitting in it. I leap out of my car with it in the middle of the road, in the middle of like the parking lot aisle road, and screamed her name and said, I need to talk to you. I explained the job to her. I said, please go talk to your parents. Please don't hesitate to ask me a million questions. You have my phone number. Text me like crazy. This is what you would be doing. But y'all, I wrote that list. I prayed over the list. I knew the person. I double checked with Kobe that he would be okay with it because it is a student from his school. And then when I saw her, not 2 hours later, I mean, it might have even been 90 minutes. Within 90 minutes, I'm physically seeing her. I asked her about it and sent her home to talk to her parents and ask them about it to see if she would be interested. And so, you guys, I do not let grass grow under my feet. And that's how I know that this brain spotting session was like the Mac Daddy brain spotting session, because it was that. Like, I absolutely have been waking up every day going, champions can only not win for so long. And I'm looking around and seeing so many sabotaging behaviors and so many places that I've been playing small and tasks that I've been doing that I shouldn't be doing. How can I get rid of these? And how can I be more excellent, more efficient, more successful, go after what I want? Real quick, before we dive back in, I want to share something I created for the women who are growing, but still kind of feel like they're doing it alone. If that statement just hit, then this is for you. I've never felt so aligned and so alone. Is the message I kept hearing as more and more women were falling in love with their life doing what they were born to do. They were craving that like-minded, iron-sharpening iron relationship with other women who were as focused, powerful, and determined to be positive as they were. And that is why I created the Growth Collective. It's our All Things Excellence book club community where you don't have to read the book because audio and PDF Cliff Notes are provided for you. There's a community for you to connect and network with other growth-minded women, plus 2 monthly Zooms where you receive connection and live coaching from me. Head on over to chelseadbc.com/book club to join us. All right, let's get back into it, because what you're hearing today is exactly why spaces like the Growth Collective exist. We were never meant to grow alone. Number 6, what am I not doing that I feel are my good to great critical inch pieces? What am I not doing that I feel are my good to great critical inch pieces? So while I should be messaging my leads all day long and booking appointments, and I should be creating content, I'm not. I've been doing all these tiny little things all over the place that make me feel like they need to get done. And so asking ourselves again, are we doing the things that feel urgent, or are we doing the things that feel important? Now, a lot of times we are stuck doing the urgent things because we don't have the right amount of help in our office so we can do the important things. And that might be in your office or that might be in your life. Maybe you're not getting to spend the quality time that you want to be spending with your kids because you're so busy running all over the place doing errands and cleaning your house. And at the end of the day, you need to review your finances and see, how can I hire someone that can help me do that so I can pay for the things to be done that don't really actually need me, and I can spend more time on the things that are the most important to me. That's when question 7 comes in. When I get really honest with myself, why am I not doing these things already? And for myself, the answer was creative avoidance. It was absolutely creative avoidance. I knew that if I was messaging the leads and creating the powerful content, that my platform would explode effortlessly overnight, because I'm wildly magnetic when I'm in the right frame of mind. Everything is effortless. Everything comes easy. Y'all are going to hear this. You're going to hear me talk about this in the podcasting session, in the podcasting therapy session that's coming up. You will hear that next week. And so when she brain spotted this part of me and got rid of that, like deleted those negative little thoughts in my brain, I was no longer going to be doing creative avoidance. And all of a sudden I realized all of these things that I need to be doing that I haven't been doing, It's now all I want to do. Like I'm ready to step into that biggest version of myself. I'm ready to let go of creative avoidance that is causing me to play small, and then I was allowing myself to play small. Number 8, what am I most afraid of? So 8 has a few questions to it. Like, what am I most afraid of? What's the worst thing that could happen if you're doing them? And is that fear really true? So there's an author, her name's Byron Katie, incredible. And she always says you need to ask yourself, but is that really true? And is that really true? And is that really true? It's asking yourself, but is that really true over and over and over again until you get to the core of the lie where you realize it's a kind of a false reality that we've created in our brain. And so asking yourself, what am I most afraid of? And again, you guys will see on the brain spotting where I went through that. What am I most afraid of? What's the worst thing that could happen if I do the great critical inch pieces? And the fears that I have around that, are they really true? So then I went to question 9. Question 9 is, what are 1 to 2 shifts I can make in the next 2 to 4 weeks that will create the greatest impact? What are 1 to 2 shifts I can create in the next 2 to 4 weeks that will create the greatest impact? And for me, I knew that the number one thing that I had to do was I had to get somebody in my home. I need her to handle these boxes right now. I need this inventory to be managed. I need my pantry to be reorganized and reset. I just need somebody to help me do a bunch of tiny little tasks around my house, like 5 to 10 hours a week. And when I can free that up and I can only be spending time on the things that I most need to be spending time on, which is really like reaching out to the leads, booking the leads, generating the content that's going to attract people into my book club community. When I do that critical impact, like that is going to create that critical inch that is going to allow for the greatest impact over the next 2 to 4 weeks. Which then, final question for y'all, number 10. What do I need more of in my life right now to experience more joy? When we're so busy doing all the wild, urgent tasks of the day, right? We're trying to we're box checking the easy things because it makes us feel good. I watched my husband do that when he worked for me. He would box check the really easy things because it would make him feel really accomplished. And then he would leave the hard tasks, which tended to be the most important, right? Or Caroline and I have talked about this a lot, my executive assistant, where it's like, okay, just because I message you and say this needs to get done right now, and you're in the middle of let's say you're in the middle of editing a podcast episode that comes out tomorrow, and I message you that emails need to be set up. Well, maybe you enjoy setting up emails more than you enjoy editing this podcast and graphics. So you're going to go do the emails so you don't forget. Well, you just went after something that was thrown at you versus the most important task. So that's where we got to learn how to a little bit of task management skills. But what do I need more of in my life right now to experience more joy? For me, it was I need to create more white space, and I need to have more adventure and more trips that are not work trips, but me trips. So asking yourself, what do I need more of in my life right now to experience more joy? It is that. I need more white space. I need more adventure. I need more fun trips that are for me, that aren't about work, that's not about visiting family. It's just really all about me having fun, doing something new. And I know that by hiring the right people, adding more help in my office, I'm going to have the space to do that. And I'm not going to feel this constant, I feel behind feel. Because I'll have the right people in the right place handling the right things. And that's the biggest thing that I always work with is Caroline and I have this conversation a lot, is just making sure that she is doing things that bring her joy, that she feels like she's great at, things that she wants to be better at. And if ever there's a task that she absolutely hates, that we take that off of her plate. So I ask her all the time, what do you love? What do you love? What you're oh my gosh, I love doing this. What do you like? You're oh, I kind of enjoy doing this. What are things that you're very neutral on? You're yeah, I don't care. I can do that. And then what are things that you're I really don't like to do that? And then what are tasks that I have you do that you're I absolutely loathe this. I hate doing this. And I always want to know where things are falling with her in those. My other assistants are very specific. They're hired for very specific tasks. All she does is create graphics. I have another person, all she does is send out texts and email reminders in my direct sales career with status updates, right? But Carline, as an executive assistant, hers is way more varied. And so, if you have people who are your employees, asking them those questions, because just like we shouldn't be doing the things that don't make us feel powerful, we shouldn't be doing the things that suck the life out of us, that we don't enjoy, because there's somebody else that will do it so much better. We're also responsible for making sure that we're asking our employees to do the same thing, right? To analyze that with them. And if there's things that they really don't enjoy or like, it's not going, well, that's the job, so figure it out. Maybe it's pulling that off their plate and finding the person who would love and enjoy doing those tasks. So, you guys, those are the 10 questions I asked myself today in my excellence audit, just looking at my goals, right? Looking at my great locking goals for here to the now to the end of the year, and going, 1, what do I want most 3 years from now? 2, what progress would make me most excited to have towards that goal 1 year from now? 3, what am I currently doing that does not align with my 1 and 3 year vision? 4, how quickly can I release those things? 5, what am I personally doing that needs to be delegated, and who do I know that I could hire to do that? 6, what am I doing? What am I not doing? What am I not doing that I feel are my good to great critical inch pieces? 7, when I get really honest with myself, why am I not doing these things already? 8, what am I most afraid of if I really do these? What's the worst thing that could happen? Is this fear really true? 9, what are 1 to 2 shifts I can make in the next 2 to 4 weeks that will create the greatest impact? And 10, what do I need more of in my life right now to experience more joy? So I encourage you, write these questions down. We actually have them already up on my Instagram, so you can head over to my Instagram, Chelsea DBC. You can save it down so you can look at it every day, or you can save the little images. I encourage you to save these questions down, and just over the next 10 days, ask yourself 1 or 2 of these questions every single day, just to start making progress on them and allowing yourself to sit and think on them. Don't put pressure on yourself that you got to answer them all in one day. But maybe you're ready to, maybe you want to. So just encouraging you to do that. And again, hope to see you inside the book club. We'll be discussing these questions and also discussing our Enneagram type and doing some typing sessions within the book club in the next few weeks. So thank you again for listening, All Things Excellence fam. I always appreciate you, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to All Things Excellence. If something landed with you today, I'd love for you to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a quick review. It helps more women find these transformational conversations. And if you're ready for support with your next step, or needing someone to stand in the gap with you to figure out what that even is, I'd love to create that space for you. And my intro clarity call is a great place to start, because life is too quick and too full to have to figure it out alone. Until next time, All Things Excellence fam, thank you for listening.